This is the Go Maluku podcast.
What's up, everyone? Ghazali Ohorella here. New episode of the Go Maluku podcast with Binota, Dhamai, and Mr. Kenneth there. And we're here at the 51st session. 51.
Yeah.
It's the last day, so my English is really getting worse and worse. 51st session of the Human Rights Council. We've been here for almost 2 weeks. Different approaches, different mandates, different objectives. So just wanted to have a little bit of a chat about what your experiences are and what you what came out of it, if it was actually that you wanted to come out of this, come out here in Geneva. And if you're wondering, we're at the UN cafeteria, where we have almost daily our
it's our office.
Our office is just over there though. And yeah, so lunchtime we spend here almost every day. Mm-hmm. So this is, well, you can see everything, but it's this is the end part of it. Let's start with, for the people that don't know, the 0.1% that doesn't know Kenneth Deere. Please.
My name is Kenneth Deere. I'm Mohawk. My language is Zahayandu, which means fire still burns. And I'm Bear Clan, and I've been coming to the United Nations Geneva since 1987. For 35 years, I've been coming here doing what we can, to promote the rights of Indigenous peoples.
And then Binota Dhamai, please.
Hi, I am Binota Dhamai, belong to Tripura community from Bangladesh. In Chittagong Hill Tracts region, the southeastern part of Bangladesh, where the land I live. And we collectively call Jummo the people of the hills. My mother tongue is Kokborok. It is our own Tripura indigenous community's language. And I have been involved to this process not so long, but from 2006. This international process, and that's all.
Yeah, and you're here in Geneva under which mandate?
I am here as a chairperson of the expert mechanism on the rights of Indigenous peoples, which we know in the short name EMRIP. EMRIP is a subsidiary body of the Human Rights Council. So EMRIP submit a report to the Human Rights Council, also present the report to the Human Rights Council, and also advise in the regulation process. So I am here to attend this 51st session of the Human Rights Council to present the EMRIP report, and also at the same time to take part in the negotiations on the regulations of human rights and Indigenous peoples in my capacity as the chair of the expert mechanism on the rights of Indigenous peoples.
Is it because you're coming here to Geneva? So you get the session in July at the EMRIP. You were elected as chair. Do you have to present? Or do you have to defend the report? What is it actually that makes it very important for you to come to Geneva?
There are two important elements. The first one is, after the annual session in July, we have our own proposal to the Human Rights Council, mm-hmm. which is the initial elements for the council regulations on Indigenous peoples and human rights. So there's one area that want to talk with the government or the member states who lead this process. So this is one thing. The second one is to present the report to the Human Rights Council that what we have decided in the annual sessions and what we have done the last 1 year in between the sessions, and also what we are going to do the next year. Mm-hmm. So there's a very important part to have this discussion in the Human Rights Council. Also, at the same time, to get the views from the member states, particularly the council members and also the Indigenous peoples representatives in the room, so that we can improve further on the future work, basically, and also at the same time see the views how member states can cooperate to our work.
Right.
So this is the main aim.
What did you have to do, like, to in terms of preparation before you came to Geneva?
Well, for the as a chair of the EMRIP, before coming to here, definitely have to prepare for our, about our proposal that we are going to make in the regulations, and because that is based on our annual session discussion and decision, and then after that, then of course what I'm going to present to the Human Rights Council as a chair. What are the key elements that I need to present to the council to take part in an interactive dialogue? So that's what the preparation I need, and also at the same time as the chair of the expert mechanism to participate in the annual panel discussion on the indigenous people's rights. But this year focused on the COVID-19 pandemic socio-economic recovery process, particularly focusing on the food security for indigenous peoples.
Right.
So that's what the preparation I need to do before coming here, going through understanding the situation, understanding the regulation process, understanding what are the language should be put forward, what are the key concerning areas could be in the interactive dialogue with the member states. So those are the elements that you need to be prepared.
Right. Well, we'll go into like what happened in Geneva in a little bit. Kenneth, you had a different objective, I assume, going to Geneva?
Yes, I'm a member of the Indigenous Coordinating Body for Enhanced Participation of Indigenous Peoples in the UN system. So I was here to lobby states and to make sure that we have a process for enhancing the participation of Indigenous peoples in the UN. As you know, we're not Indigenous peoples are not NGOs. We're not non-governmental organizations. So we are actual governments. And we cannot engage at the Human Rights Council unless you're a state or an NGO. So we are advocating for a status for Indigenous peoples that recognizes our right to self-determination, so we can engage as ourselves as governments, and not non-governments. So that's what I was here to do.
Right, and probably we'll also should touch upon a little bit your side project. There's the Haudenosaunee.
Oh yeah. The other thing, as a Mohawk and part of the Haudenosaunee, we are preparing for the 100th anniversary of Diskahe coming to Geneva. He came in 1923 to address the League of Nations, and the 100th anniversary is next year, 2023. So we're engaging with the City of Geneva to do activities to commemorate that 100th anniversary. And so we're looking at putting up panels along the lake telling the story of Diskahe, and we are looking at having our flag on the bridge of the Mont Blanc Bridge, and we're looking at planting a tree of peace, and we're also, very importantly, the mayor of Geneva will be feting the Haudenosaunee delegation at City Hall. Because we've always, Diskahe in 1923 and 24 had a good relationship with the city of Geneva, the people of Geneva, and the mayor of Geneva at the time. And when the Haudenosaunee came back in 1977, the mayor of Geneva welcomed the Haudenosaunee delegation, saying that to repay the kindness of Diskahe, the mayor said the Haudenosaunee will always be welcome in Geneva. And we had the mayors in 97 and 2003 repeat that promise, and we want to have the mayor repeat it again in 2023.
And those conversations currently happening with the City of Geneva?
With the City of Geneva, yeah. All those projects I just said are going ahead. But we have 2 years to do stuff, because Diskahe was here in 1923 and 24. And so we have 2023 and 24 to carry out more activities. Next year there'll be a museum exhibit which includes Diskahe, but many other Indigenous peoples. There's many things, other things we'd like to do. We'd like to see some university, I guess, activities, maybe panels from different authors and researchers about Diskahe. There's a lot of things that we still like to see happen here in Geneva. As you know, though, Diskahe was denied to speak to the League of Nations, and he applied also for the Haudenosaunee to become a member of the League of Nations, and that was never even tabled, which was against the rules of the League at the time. So we look at Discahe as the beginning of the process of having Indigenous people speak as governments here at the UN. And here it is 99 years later and we still can't speak. So we're challenging the United Nations that by 2024, the 100th anniversary of our application to the League of Nations, that Discahe will be able to address the Human Rights Council as a government and not an NGO.
Yeah, because the biggest misconception that people make that they think that Discahe is a name.
Yeah, Discahe is a title. It's a title of a chief. He's a Cayuga chief, and that title of Discahe was handed down from generation to generation from time immemorial, from before European contact, handed down by the clan mothers, the women leaders who carry the title, and it's the women that choose the chiefs. So the women have been making sure those titles survive all these centuries. And today, the Discahe in 1923 was a man named Levi General, and the Discahe today is a man named Steve Jacobs. And so we hope that a current Discahe will be able to address the Human Rights Council representing the Haudenosaunee and not an NGO sometime in the near future.
I think, well, now we've pretty much established like why we're actually, from both of your perspectives, like why we're in Geneva. For 2 weeks, what did you do? What were the main like activities that you did in whilst here in Geneva? Kenneth, please.
Well, one of the things that we do here, which was I've been advocating for many years, is that here in Geneva we're allowed to be in the negotiations on the resolution. So we were here to take part in the negotiations on the resolution as soon as the first meeting last a week ago. When was that? September 19th. We attended the first negotiations on the resolution on the rights of Indigenous peoples, and we were able there to express the changes that we want, and also to defend the text that's there from states that want changes. So we were there, we spoke up when we had to. We defended the text that we needed to defend, and we proposed text that we felt would make the resolution better. So we did that at the two meetings on the resolution, and lobbying states in the meantime and others to try to make sure that we get what we want in the resolution. So that it's a very important activity to take part in, and that is a part of enhanced participation of Indigenous peoples to actually negotiate resolutions. You can't do that in the General Assembly in New York.
Right. Binota, you were there in the consultations as well, like these negotiations. Like, how was your experience of those sessions?
Well, I see this way that the participation of the delegates in this conversation was very positive. I'll say very positive and constructive, and it gives some also positive vibration for the engagement process in terms of understanding Indigenous people issues and their aspirations and their expectations through this regulation. So one hand is where the Indigenous people's representatives are trying to put forward with their own languages. At the same time, states are also trying to give their own language. So there's the beauty and diversity that you have views, but the equal participation to this discussion was great from my point of view. And of course, from the expert mechanism views also, because we are mandated to implement or advancing the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. So based on that also our views always to see that how the UNDRIP has framed in the regulation and also in the negotiation process, because this is the minimum standard that we are looking into that in the text. Right? So in that way I'll see this is very positive way. Development and more engagement, constructive and participatory So I'll stop here.
No, yeah, it's like from the lens of the chair of the EMRIP, obviously you're participating and you're observing the participation of Indigenous peoples. Like, what is your impression of Indigenous peoples like Kenneth, Thomas, myself, participating in these consultations?
See, one of the things, enhanced participation is by add, where EMRIP also has always emphasized. And EMRIP's annual session, they put this annual day discussion and also in their agenda items in the official session, and also lobbying with the member states that enhanced participation process should be there for the indigenous peoples in order to be able to speak to the Human Rights Council. So it is there. Why it is so important for EMRIP as well? Because it is in line with the UNRIP, enhanced participation. And also my personal view is that, see, one of the things, the participation process for indigenous peoples, if we see the historical fact, the adoption of the UN declarations on the rights of indigenous peoples, that's where you had the inclusion, you had the equality, you had the diversity. Inclusion in a sense that from the historical perspective there, indigenous peoples took part in the negotiation, lobby, advocacy with the member states. And it was also the equal manner that indigenous peoples and states both in the same room talking on the issues, and every single paragraph, every single language of the UNRIP. And the diversity is here the same way that the many actors are involved there to build this consensus. So that's the way the beauty for the participation. Now the enhanced participation here, the council also, it gives a beauty in a sense, because indigenous peoples has been contributing to this global governance structure, particularly to this Human Rights Council and also in the General Assembly level. Now, if we see from that perspective, the contribution of indigenous peoples actually quite huge. They have been contributing to this council process, to this whole UN system, whole international governance structure everywhere. Right? So now, in the Human Rights Council process, until today we are actually, for the indigenous peoples, we have very limited space. We have very limited space and we don't see our effective participation there because we are simply not recognized as indigenous peoples to the Human Rights Council entity. So that's our weakness that we cannot do. For example, yesterday we had this annual half-day panel discussion, and then I had the interactive dialogue as a chair of the EMRIP. I can easily see our indigenous peoples representatives come along the way to Geneva to share their voices. They simply could not speak.
I don't know what happened. Anyway, maybe there was a camera saying like, "All right, Binota, thank you so much," and let's round it off. Kenneth, Binota, let's start with you, Kenneth. Were you able to achieve in Geneva what you wanted to achieve?
I think we achieved minimally what we wanted. In negotiations we always want more, and we ask for more, and we didn't get everything that we wanted. But the resolution, one of the things that we wanted to make sure was solidified was that we're having a 4-day workshop on Indigenous participation, enhanced participation in November, from November 21st to the 24th. So we want to make sure that the resolution maintained that workshop. And hopefully that we'll have an ongoing process after the workshop. We wanted to get language in there to appoint co-facilitators from the president of the Human Rights Council. But the states wouldn't accept that yet, but they may accept that. We let them know what we want, so that the next resolution we may be able to get that. We also got some language on repatriation of indigenous artifacts and human remains, and we kept that in the resolution. We wanted to get a mechanism, which is the word that's used in the outcome document for the World Conference, but the states would only accept the word process. They still won't accept that. We need a mechanism. And of course, there was good language on human rights defenders and indigenous women that need protection. And I think there's a few other things in there that don't jump in my head right now. But I think overall the resolution is pretty good.
So please.
Yeah, just to add with Kenneth about the in the regulation text, the study of EMRIP on the treaties agreements, it's also there. And also for the next year study on the militarization's impact to indigenous people's rights, human rights focus. So this proposal is there in the text, and also the one panel discussion. This is a specific, I think the language has a little bit changed now, a specific development project impact to indigenous women, something like that. So there's a half the panel discussion. So those languages are there. But what I want to send a message from here is that the enhanced participations in the workshop, now we are talking. So, enhanced participation workshop in November, they are calling for the contribution from indigenous peoples organizations. So this is very important for indigenous peoples organizations to contribute their views, how they want to see the enhanced participations at this moment to the Human Rights Council. And this workshop is very important, and also your contribution as indigenous peoples organizations, representative bodies and institutions to contribute to this workshop through the written statement, which which Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, we know shortly OHCHR they are compiling. So I urge to all the indigenous peoples organizations from the 7 socio-cultural region to contribute, to submit your views within the timeline, within the deadline. I think it is 31st of October. So this is my message to everyone. Please take part this discussion, contribute through writing and send to the OHCHR. And we are here always to support you.
Great final words from the chair of the EMRIP. Kenneth?
Yeah, I just want to also support that indigenous people find that. Ghazali will tell you how to find it. To find the survey, it's important that when you do the survey, you deal with 4 issues. Who should get the status, and how, and what the status can get you, what the modalities are, what venues you want to have enhanced participation in, and who decides on who will get this, how will get this status.
My friends, you can now also listen to the Go Maluku podcast on Spotify. Listen while you use other apps or do other things. If you don't have Spotify, just open your Apple or Google podcast or your favorite podcasting app and search for the Go Maluku podcast.